Hello everyone, my name is Webweaver and welcome back to another episode of It's Look Who It Is. Did you know that it's Look Who It Is? Of course, the moment I start hitting the record button, the Discord DMs start popping off. But you know what? I don't have anything planned for tonight besides recording videos, so it may be It's Look Who It Is, but not right now. You have no idea how much this means to us small accounts and its Discord notifications. Listen, I have been exposed to a much more entertaining discourse because it's not little treats or anything like that. You already know, if you had to guess what topic it was, what the discourse topic of today is, you can probably make like a pretty educated guess. It's not that, it's not that surprising, nor is it that difficult. We can do generic Perks Ayaka. I don't know, I'm feeling like a generic Perks Ayaka run. Now, here's the dealio, okay? Here's the thing. I'm thinking that we play... I'm trying to think, I was maybe even thinking, a little, a Zektas run as, a little treat, because we haven't done that in, 80 years. But Eldritch, Possession just kind of, kind of nullifies that, you know what I mean? We just get that as soon as possible, and then we don't really care about it, so... I don't know. I think we could maybe do... You know what? Gazoo. Resting increases doom. Which is something that many people can relate to feeling in real life. Oh, I should be doing this thing, but instead I'm lying down or sitting down and relaxing. Ugh. How could you ever do something like that? Sit down and rest, treat yourself kindly, and give yourself a moment to breathe? Huh! What are you, a human? Anyways, you should probably rest more often and treat yourself kinder. It's probably a good idea. That's probably a good idea. Probably increase your, standard of living if you could do that without feeling guilty. But hey, anyways, what are we doing here? So listen, the discourse arc, okay? We're on the Discord arc. We're on the discourse arc. The Discord arc is when we start having guests on the show, you know what I mean? But here's the deal, okay? Expel evil, don't mind if I do, get that shit out of here. Absolutely. You do indeed kind of love to see it. We do probably want to sell this, but I'll roll it one more time, just in case. Protective carvings, look at that. Now, we are gonna eat it in the stamina department, but, I mean, we get -6 Doom at the beginning of the run and -1 damage received permanently. You stack that with an Ico, or not an Ico, sorry, a Kana, and you feel pretty good about yourself. You really do. You start stacking a little bit of damage reduction as a little treat. Now, here's the dealio, okay? Peek, by the way. Oh, we saw Moriko immediately. Goodbye, Peek. Now that I'm caught up, it's really interesting because the only thing that I have to do is grind Battle Pass levels so that I can get, as many, free-to-play, quote-unquote, because I bought the Battle Pass, but, as many, identities as I can get out of just grinding the Battle Pass, or at least as many ego shards as I can. I've already gotten a lot of them, but I want to get the ring sang, as it were, Need something for my Blood Fiend team, because I have all of them, because I started playing the game when they were new, and I got all of them. The Barber, the Priest, and of course the Princess, who is just 100% goated. The Princess is in my charge team, just because I needed a strong unit, and she's just kind of goated. She is just kind of goated with the sauce. But anyways, what the hell are we talking about? I don't know. Oh yeah, discourse. So, speaking of, get it because Ring Sang is a painter, Speaking of paint, speaking of pictomancers, um, there is a lot of Pictomancer discourse going on in the Final Fantasy XIV community. Now, listen, I gotta let my biases be known. Throughout my entire time playing Final Fantasy XIV, I've been a white mage main, and hallucinations I don't care about, but I do care about our max health, so let's get that shit out of here, just a little bit. But, so, Holes is probably okay. I'd probably rather not, but it's fine. I'll take any weapon, and if it gives us a bonus like being a light source, we would love to take it. But basically, I have been a white mage main. Sorry, I gotta slide the chair a little bit closer. I have been a white mage main since the beginning of me playing Final Fantasy XIV, okay? Now, originally I wanted to also play Dragoon and Astrologian, but those jobs suck, so in my opinion, I don't like playing them. And so for some reason I play Reaper and White Mage and Gunbreaker. But I never really had a ranged DPS that I liked playing. I did like a little bard stint for a while. But leading up to Dawn Trail, right, I heard that we might be getting Pictomancer, right? That Kryl would be job-changing into Pictomancer. Kryl, Baldesion, my beloved, would be job-changing into Pictomancer, and that would be the other job that's not Viper. And we thought Viper was going to be Corsair back then. You remember that? We thought Viper was going to be a pirate job. But, yeah, anyways, so I told myself immediately that if Pictomancer gets added to the game, I will main it no matter what. And at least for Dawn Trail, even if it sucks, and even if I don't like its gameplay, because I love the aesthetic. I love everything about it. Paint mage fighting with paint, that's awesome. That's great. I genuinely love it. Ooh. Funny moments of the world of horror Shiikawa variety. Get me the hell out of here, chat. But, so Pictomancer got announced, and I remember when we got an overview of its skills, people were like, Pictomancer's dead on arrival, because it was a job that had to channel abilities that just let you activate other abilities later, right? So you had to do this, like, upkeep mechanic of constantly keeping your motifs painted, and you would have to stand still, and it would be, like, 3+ seconds for each one, and it was really annoying. And then they had, like, the hammer combo that confused people, and everybody was expecting it to be a support DPS, because that's what they said it was going to be, but it didn't have a raise, and its only heal was tied to its 2-minute burst. And so people were like, okay, yeah, this job's dead on arrival. This job sucks. Like, obviously we need to see the potency numbers when it actually comes out, but people were looking at this and they're like, no raise, shitty heal, forced downtime, it's dead on arrival. It's the worst. It's gonna be the worst job in the game. Biggest flop. Square Enix has no idea what they're doing. Pictomancer came out, and it was so insanely, overwhelmingly strong to such a ridiculous extent that they had to change how threat generation worked on tanks because Pictomancer was stealing aggro from tanks who were playing properly, right? Like, Pictomancer players could not do certain abilities in the middle of a pull because the tanks would literally not be able to keep aggro because the Pictomancer are doing so much damage to every single enemy in the pull as you're running that the only way that a tank could keep aggro is by using their ranged attack, which generates extra threat, or provoke. And even then, they would lose it immediately because that's one GCD and one OGC that goes on like a 30-second cooldown. I don't know how long provoke goes on cooldown for because I'm not a tank player. But, you know, just, like, actually trying to do pulls, like, if you were not a, like, really, really good tank, and you had a Pictomancer in your party, like, early Dawn Trail, the Pictomancer would steal aggro from you and then get killed. And that's not, like, your fault. The Pictomancer was just... did way too much damage. Like, an absurd amount of damage. And they did it in AoE. Almost all of their damage was AoE by default. The only thing that isn't AoE is their, whatchamacallit, their RGB and cyan, yellow, magenta. There's an AoE toggle for that. Like, you know, well, not a toggle, that's Sage, but, like, there's an AoE combo, and then there's your normal combo. But everything else, like your creature motifs and your hammer motif, and your rainbow drip and your star prism, all of that shit's AoE. And it just does insane amounts of single target damage, and it does insane amounts of splash damage as well to other targets. So, it was this really insane event where you just had to be there. Like, the opening, like, month of Dawn Trail, the opening, like, first few weeks of Dawn Trail, or whatever you want to call it, where Pictomancer was so unbelievably, unimaginably strong that it just completely dominated everything. Like, it did the most damage out of everything. Easily. Like, no DPS in the game could come close to Pictomancer. It was so overwhelmingly broken. Oh, hey, nice. Well, at least we can't die to it, right? So, you know, what happened was everybody was like, okay, Pictomancer's gonna get nerfed into the ground. But they didn't actually do that. They reworked how tank threat was generated so that your AoE combo, so it's even easier for tanks to hold aggro now than it used to be, and they had to do that because they didn't want to nerf Pictomancer. But also what they did was they just gave every DPS job more potency, right? Like, I'm pretty sure every DPS job has been either, like, Pictomancer got one change, which was you cannot click off your subtracted palette, and you cannot click off your, like, Aether Hues, right? You can't do that. You can't do those two things. So that's like one of the only changes that Pictomancer got, and it didn't get a numbers change at all. And so what happens is that they just keep buffing and buffing and buffing other DPS jobs. So, you know, Pictomancer is, like, completely... like, Pictomancer still, to this day, after having not gained any changes whatsoever outside of, like, quality of life and, fixing bugs, quote-unquote, but actually making it slightly worse because they patch, like, a way for you to do easier magenta skips, so now you can only skip magenta in very specific parts of fights, where you can just do nothing for 30 seconds. But the thing about Pictomancer that makes it, like, really unreal and really crazy is that it is so overwhelmingly powerful, and it also breaks the game, because a lot of jobs and a lot of fights are balanced by the idea of having to, like, get good at minimizing downtime, right? So the idea is that the mechanics or the fight itself, the arena, like, whatever it is, like, you're getting knocked back, the mechanics are making you move away from the boss, whatever it is, the fights are designed to get you to stop doing damage so that you focus on movement, or you just get pushed away, or you just can't target the boss for whatever reason. And so a lot of optimization is just getting good at minimizing downtime, right? And doing your rotation properly, even with the downtime involved. Yeah, this shit sucks. I don't really want to do either of these things, but we have to, I think. Because this is just a gauntlet, you know? Sure, we'll go Violent Vigil, even though we're probably gonna die. I'm a little bit worried about some of this stuff. We can get rid of holes just because it's more damage that we don't want to deal with. But like, it really is insane because a lot of the fights are designed in the way that I just said. But the thing is, Pictomancer circumvents all of that because Pictomancer has GCDs that they have to press within a certain time frame, and they can use these GCDs whenever they want, and you don't have to be targeting. So the boss can have forced downtime, and the Pictomancer gets free damage. Like, literally just free damage. Like, if the boss has downtime where you can't target the boss, Pictomancer is generating potency in an easier way than every other job, because they would have had to stand still and do nothing anyways. You know what I mean? So that on its own is, like, insane enough. But it gets even crazier because it's like, you know, Pictomancer... the best way I can put it is it's kind of like what Panstash does with this game, where something will be added to World of Horror, and it will be, like, the greatest thing of all... I can't click this button, I'll die immediately. It'll be the, like, you know... It'll be the most ridiculously overpowered thing of all time, and then there's not really an adequate balance change because Panstash doesn't know why that thing is so strong. Or something will be added to the game and it will be completely useless and, like, completely worthless. And it's like, well, Panstash doesn't really, you know why it's completely worthless. It's because you make something in a unique way that kind of, like, breaks the game because it's something different and because it's designed that way, right? Like, I think the best example of this is probably, like, Book of Gore, right? Like, Pictomancer is Book of Gore, basically. It is overwhelmingly, insanely strong, and its downsides are not downsides. Nothing that... Because... You know, in World of Horror, healing is one of the best resources that you could ever have, and injuries don't actually do all that much, if anything, and you can ignore most of them. And so it's like, in Final Fantasy XIV, a job with forced downtime, because you have to paint your motifs, that's fine, because you're doing so much damage that when you do attack, you're doing more damage than everyone else, and the fights are designed to not allow other jobs to have 100% uptime. But because you're Pictomancer, when you can't have 100% uptime, you just paint your motifs, you just paint your paintings. And that's what you do. And then you are generating potency while everyone else is just, like, existing and doing nothing, right? And so when you're allowed to attack, you're allowed to do it crazy and big like that, you know what I mean? I think we gotta take the fight, because then we level up, right? But can we win in one turn? Probably not. Burning the envelope, at least we get to maybe live, but, you know, it's a little crazy. I don't know, it's like, Pictomancer has downsides that don't matter, and then to compensate for it, they gave it, like, the most damage in the game. And so that means that if you're a professional player or, like, a top-tier player, you're always going to play Pictomancer because it's the best, right? Like, it has the most damage. And so the controversy is that that's what everybody's doing. All of the best caster players are all playing Pictomancer. And Pictomancer caused another permanent change to the game because of how... So, there's a system in Final Fantasy XIV called Limit Break. Tell me if you've heard that one before from a Final Fantasy game. You probably haven't. But basically the idea is that you generate your Limit Break, and it goes up from level 1 to level 2 to level 3. Every job in its own category shares level 1 and level 2, right? So if you are a caster, Level 1 and level 2 is a AoE circle that, like, nukes a small area. If you are a physical ranged, so like a machinist or a bard or whatever, you have a line AoE. If you are a DPS, you get the Cloud Strife Buster Sword or whatever it is. I've never played Final Fantasy VII. I've never played Final Fantasy VII. You get the Cloud Strife Sword, and then you jump up in the air and you do like a bunch of anime slashes and then you slam down, right? If you're a melee DPS. If you're a healer, I don't know, it's just like a heal, I guess. I don't really know. You never see it. And if you're a tank, I don't know, I think it's like a party-wide mitigation, but it's not as good as tank LB3. And then LB3, every job kind of has it to where it's the same in the sense of, like, your archetype. So, you know, like, line AoEs for physical ranged, circles for casters, massive party mitigation for tanks, and for healers, it is like a global instant revive and instant full heal for everyone, right? And the limit breaks are really cool. The limit break compilations of, like, jobs doing LB3, really neat. And the Pictomancer LB3 is extremely pretty. But limit breaks, the reason why I bring it up, is limit breaks are often required in some forms of content. And in Ultimates, which are the hardest difficulty in the game, this shit sucks, by the way. I hate this so much. We gotta go coma. As much as I don't want to do that. As much as I would rather not. This is probably what we're gonna have to do. So, here's the deal, right? Ooh, we're generating some doom here, chat. So basically... And I'm glad we did it like this, because we have school scissors after this, so we can put the police station on the school. Limit breaks are often required for ultimates, or at the very least, they're, like, very helpful, because they give you, like, a burst of whatever it is you need on demand, so you can, like, bank them. And in some ultimates, they're required, right? Like, I know in Uwu and Top, you're required to do limit breaks. You are required to do limit breaks 100% of the time in Uwu, but in Top there are cheese strategies where you can avoid using the healer LB3. But you do need to use limit breaks pretty often in ultimate content, because they're sort of like ultimate content has a significant aspect of, like, puzzle solving, and some puzzles are solved by using a limit break. So the change that Pictomancer brought to the game was that if you have duplicate jobs in your, like, full party, for, like, ultimates and, like, Savage, I'm pretty sure. I don't know if it's still for, like, duty finder content, because if it is, that would kind of suck, because there's, you know, no guarantee that you're gonna have different jobs in that, and you often will have duplicates. But, you know, for, like, Savage and Ultimates and stuff, if you have duplicate jobs, you don't generate limit break, period, anymore. You don't generate any LB meter. And the reason why they did this is because Pictomancer is so... There are disadvantages to running duplicate jobs already built into the game, because they want everybody to be playing a unique job, okay? So it's like 2 tanks, 1 regen healer, 1 barrier healer, 2 melee DPS who are different melee DPS, and a physical range DPS and a magic DPS, right? So the problem that they were running into with the new Ultimate Fru is that Pictomancer is so insanely strong that the disadvantages to running duplicate jobs does not matter in the face of Pictomancer's overwhelming superiority, okay? So they had to implement a system in the game, which is future-proof by being applied to every job. But everybody knows that it was specifically for for Pictomancer 100% of the time. There's nobody on Earth that believes it was for any other job, because there's not really a discrepancy for DPS jobs of, like, who's the objective best. Like, Pictomancer is so good that if you could get away with it, you would not have a physical ranged, and instead you would have a Pictomancer and a Pictomancer. But they don't let you do that because you won't build any Limit Break, and I don't know if you need Limit Break on Fru. I haven't watched, like, a full clear of it yet, but I would assume you do, or at least it's very helpful. Speaking of very helpful, 4 stamina, 6 sanity, and we're going into School Scissors. We're praying for combat. We are absolutely praying for combat. Give me lucky earrings, dude. I don't care about Onyx Medallion. It doesn't actually do anything. Do we die instantly? We do not die instantly, chat. You love to see it. We should get rid of Panic, probably. Just because that's, like, kind of a pain in the ass. But, so here's the thing. I think, as somebody who's been maining Pictomancer since the beginning of Dawn Trail, Pictomancer is, in my opinion, I have played most jobs in this game, not at level 100, but I've played most jobs in this game, on various different alts and on my main. I have played most of the jobs in this game at level 90. And the only jobs that I personally find really, really, really fun are White Mage, Gunbreaker, and Reaper, and now Pictomancer. And I enjoy playing Pictomancer more than I enjoy playing all of those jobs. I think Pictomancer is, from a job design perspective, one of the best jobs that they ever, like, from a play perspective, you know, like, playing the video game, not the statistics or the damage numbers or the implications for the hardcore rating community. I mean, just, like, from a I like it perspective. You know what I mean? I think that Pictomancer is the most enjoyable job that they've ever made in the game. Although, I have not played Viper yet. I really do want to, but I have not played Viper yet. I am planning on picking up Viper soon, though, because it looks really fun. I think from everything that I've seen about Viper, it looks like they knocked it out of the park, as well, but Viper did need some tweaks and adjustments from the early game, maybe? Because I remember some Viper players getting mad about the job changes, but never played Viper, so no opinion. But I think that as far as Pictomancer is concerned, from a this job is fun perspective, knocked it out of the park. Love the aesthetic, love the animations, love the buttons, love the mechanics, love the feel of the job, love playing it. Actually, like, genuinely enjoyable to play. Love playing it. Absolutely do. Fantastic job. For real, on God. And then, I started doing raids as Pictomancer, and I realized something. I, a bad Pictomancer, now mediocre / slightly below average, thank you very much, am outputting more damage than good melee DPS players. And I realized something was severely wrong, because me picking Pictomancer should not be contributing additional percentages to the boss's health if I played, like, Red Mage or Summoner at a similar level. However, here's the thing. I would like to posit as we continue this video, okay? And I know most of the people watching this do not care about Final Fantasy XIV, except for, like, 3 or 4 people watching this. I would like to posit that people only care about job supremacy and damage numbers because they are not immune to propaganda. Now, again, I have my biases. I laid them on the table. I think Pictomancer is really fun, and I think that, whatchamacallit. I think that Pictomancer is really fun, and I main Pictomancer. So I've put my biases on the table. So you know where I'm coming from. You know my biases and what I think about. But there's something very, very odd and very, very funny about all of this going on. And that is that Pictomancer is objectively the best DPS in the game right now. Like, I don't think anybody would disagree with me when I say that. I think that's just a true statement. Like, 100%, right? Right, high threat level. High threat level, that's true. High threat level. Real, 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 real. Probably dexterity? Was that the bad choice? No, we got more, we got more curses on the horizon. It should be fine. So here's the thing. In Final Fantasy XIV, there have always been jobs that are better than other jobs. Not to this extent, though, and that's very important. Pictomancer is breaking the mold mostly because it is the first time I think a job has just been definitively the best, no questions asked, to the point where it's like... Because previously, the community consensus that I was aware of in, like, Shadowbringers and Endwalker was play whatever job you want to, it doesn't matter. Even if your job is statistically worse. Like, if you want to play Bard, or you want to play Warrior, or Summoner, or Red Mage, or... well, I guess Bard, Summoner, and Red Mage are the main ones that I'm thinking about right now. But, you know, if you wanted to play one of them, you could. Like, okay, would Black Mage out DPS you? Yes. Would Machinist out DPS you? Yes. Does Dancer provide better buffs than Bard? Yes. Probably. I don't know. I don't know what the meta is today, right? I'm speaking, like, historically from, like, Shadowbringers, Endwalker. I mostly know the Endwalker meta, because that's when I started Savage raiding. But, you know, like, I remember that Bard was looked down upon, White Mage was looked down upon, Red Mage was looked down upon, right? Those jobs, all of them sucked. Everybody hated them. They were the inferior of the jobs. But you could still play them if you wanted to, and it didn't really matter, right? Like... It didn't really matter if you played this job or that job or whatever. This should just kill. Yeah, we're doing 30 damage a turn. I didn't even have to run the numbers in my head. So, the thing... I should have taken Charisma. I'm worried about that. I should have taken Charisma. Do we get rid of Hunger? Because we're not getting any more curses, unless we get, Isn't Bloated an injury? I think Bloated is actually an injury, isn't it? I'm gonna look that up. If Bloated is not an injury, if Bloated is a curse, we will stay the course. But if Bloated is not a curse, then, yeah, Bloated is an injury, actually, so... I don't know. I mean, I'm kinda a little bit worried. Just a little bit. I guess we can get rid of it, like, you know, next mystery. We don't have to get rid of it now. We don't, it's true. But basically, like, you know, there were always jobs that sucked, but you could play them, it didn't really matter. But Pictomancer is the first time that it's like, you know, jobs used to fall into this category of like, melees do the most DPS, magic do the second most DPS, and then physical range do the least DPS. Out of DPS, alright? Because then after physical ranged, it would be tanks and it would be healers. Because the thing is, physical ranged have 100% uptime. Magic DPS have range, but they have cast bars. And melee have to be in melee range. So it makes sense that it's like, you know, melee have the most downtime because sometimes the boss leaves melee range, so they do more damage. Magic casters have to move, so their casts get cancelled. So they do more damage than physical ranged because they have to, like, commit to their abilities. And physical ranged do the least damage out of the DPS because they have 100% uptime and can always hit the boss. And then tanks would do more damage than healers, because healers are healers and tanks are, like, melee but durable, right? But tanks don't do a lot of damage either. So it's like DPS do the most in that hierarchy, and then, you know, tanks do more than healers, and healers do the least amount of damage, but they're required because, you know, you take raid-wide, so healers need to heal you or everybody will die, okay? So... there's that aspect of it that I think is very important. But also, okay, very important is the hierarchy did not get deviated from except for Black Mage on occasion. And this was excused for two reasons. One, Black Mage is the director of the game's job, so of course it needs to be strong. Everybody's okay with that. And also, Black Mage used to be the most powerful job in the game. It used to be, or not powerful job, sorry. The most complicated job in the game. So Black Mage used to be the hardest job to play in the game. And in some patches, it was stronger than Melee, because even though Melee on average are more difficult for uptime than casters are, Black Mage was just so complicated that it was like, people said that it was worth it for it to do more damage. And also, of course, the Yoshi P bias of being the best job in the game because it's the director's job. Black Mage was the only job in the game that could just own itself because you pressed the wrong button and now you ruined everything and you can't attack. And then you have to go in panic ice recovery mode to try to get your mana back. Black Mage was funny. It really was. It was great. But, so, sometimes Black Mage would be better than melee jobs, but most of the time it was melee, casters, ranged, tanks, and healers at the bottom. Right, sorry there, I had to pause for a moment. So basically, that's sort of the hierarchy that jobs have normally fallen into as far as damage numbers go. Now, there's something very important about this that I've been kind of alluding to this entire time, okay? And that is that we are talking about this from the perspective of a DPS player and no one else. The reason why this is... We're gonna die, by the way. I'm so scared. I'm so scared of this boss. The reason why is... So, let's think about... Oh, I don't know. Paladin, warrior, or the thing that's most relevant to me and that I'm most qualified to speak on, White Mage. So, these are jobs that are, historically dog shit. And for specifically White Mage has been... So, there are two types of healers in Final Fantasy XIV. There are barrier or shield healers, and then there are pure or regen healers. The basic idea is if you are a barrier healer, you provide shields and mitigation for your team so that when they take damage, their HP, the damage has to go through the shield first. You're a barrier or shield healer, and your regen capabilities are less so than your pure healer counterparts. And then a pure healer or a regen healer is the healer who is designed for somebody is below or missing HP. You cast a healing spell, and then their HP goes from, low health to high health. That sort of thing, right? So there's two pure healers. There's White Mage and Astrologian. White Mage, my beloved, has been getting absolutely shafted in every potential scenario of, raid viability. And Astrologian, for the entire time I've been Savage raiding, so I think, literally longer than 3 years at this point. Or, basically, Shadowbringers, Endwalker, to, now Dawntrail. White Mage is significantly worse than Astrologian. Pretty severely so. Astrologian is preferred over White Mage in every single raid scenario. There's not a single point where... There's not a single point where White Mage is preferred over Astrologian outside of casual content, because White Mage is easier to play, right? The problem that I personally have is that I, wish that White Mage was more, viable. And when a White Mage player says that they wish White Mage would be more viable, they immediately get shut down by everybody saying, oh, White Mage is easy to play, so why would it be good? Or, that's the cost of having an easy-to-play job. Or... Sorry, neighbor got new cat, so that makes my dog very feisty. They're very cute. But anyways, when a White Mage player says that they wish White Mage was more competitively viable, they immediately get shut down. Oh, Astrologian has divination, so of course it's better. Oh, Astrologian is harder to play, so of course White Mage is worse. And here lies my problem. And I could go on, I could talk about... We're gonna die, by the way. It's Joe for chat. Can you imagine this would be doing 5 damage? This shit's scary. Can we, regain 1 reason? Actually, can we regain more than that? And then, pay you to frick off? Hello? Hold on, let me lock in. But, I could talk about how, if you had a warrior and a paladin, the 2 lowest DPS tanks back in, what was it called? It was Anabasios, Asphodelos, Abyssos, yeah. If you had a warrior and a paladin in week 1 of Abyssos, you literally couldn't clear, right? You would either need a Dark Knight or a Gunbreaker, right? But the only reason people cared about that was because there was someone in the community who was very, very loud as a warrior main, who was very, very upset. Right? That's the... hold on. Do you mind if I... Oh. Uh-oh. No money? No way. No money? Are you... Oh, no. No money? That's crazy, dude. I mean, I guess we could throw... The Lucky Earring's gonna do any damage? Nope. I mean, we could throw the HDF, I guess. I mean, that's better than nothing, and that gets us there. Because we can do 8 damage, and then hope that this does 3. Works for me, chat. Works for me. Well, we're actually about to find out if it works for me or not. Because we have 7 in every goddamn stat. Dude, no. Okay. Strength, dexterity. Strength, dexterity. And no knowledge. So it's literally just strength and dexterity. Okay. Sure. But basically where I'm going with this, right? The thing that is important... do we actually have quick thinking? No, we don't. I actually kind of want to reroll for quick thinking. Because either we have to rest 2 times for 4 Doom, or we have to get quick thinking here. And we have Innsmouth look, so it's I don't want to take any damage from this. I mean, we might as well just do both. Pretty abysmally dog shit. I can't imagine it going worse, honestly. We're just gonna have to rest a few times. That's okay. Probably fine, right? Probably fine. No quick thinking, sad face. We'll be fine, we'll be fine. But, the only reason people cared about that is because we had a really, really, really loud person who was a warrior main, right? And, again, White Mage has been dog shit for the entire time I've been playing the game compared to Astrologian. Astrologian, despite how messy that job is and how many reworks it required, every single rework, it's been better than White Mage. And the problem that I have with it, and the problem that I have with this discourse and this discussion, is that we've entered a point because Black Mage was simplified, much to the agony of the Black Mage community, or at least the Black Mage raiding community. We have a point where I believe Pictomancer is one of the more complicated jobs in the game. Now, I like it, but, you know, it's just, at least from what I've heard, and from what people talk about, it's one of the more complicated jobs in the game, right? So, you get to this point where when a white mage player wishes that their job was more viable, people are like, oh, you disgusting white mage players want everything for yourselves. It's like, you want things to be easy and you want to be viable in raid. And it's like, Pictomancer is certainly more complicated than Summoner and Red Mage, and it also doesn't have a raise, which those two do. So it definitely makes more sense that it would do more damage than those two. But I think a lot of this, and I do think that Square Enix made a mistake on job balance, and I do think that inevitably Pictomancer will be nerfed. But I think a lot of the community outrage to this is just complete cope and, like, completely, like, misaligned. Because the only reason you care about Pictomancer being strong is, I mean, I don't even know why. Like, we've had periods where, for years, other jobs have been more dominant in the meta, right? Like, Dark Knight always does more damage than, you know, Warrior and Paladin. And Gunbreaker usually does more damage. But, like, you know, people do complain about it, but not as much as I've seen for this Pictomancer stuff. And so, there was a tweet the other day. I think it was by Explosion. And it was basically about, I'm trying to find it because I replied to it. So, 100%, so basically they like, told us some fun stats about Fru, right? 100% of clears have had a Pictomancer. There is no solo caster non-picked clear yet. Most popular tank comp is Paladin / Dark Knight, and healers Astrologian / Scholar by far. And then, you know, Summoner, Black Mage, Samurai, only one clear each. Now, this has changed a little bit, because I did hear that a non-Pictomancer team cleared finally, but it's just, like, out of these fun facts, right? People only have a problem with Pictomancer. And I do agree that Pictomancer is a problem, but nobody wants to talk about how Astrologian is the best regen healer for competitive play, and how Dark Knight is always in competitive play, right? Like, Dark Knight and Gunbreaker, one of them shows up. Like, it's cool to see Paladin there, don't get me wrong. Because I've seen a lot of Paladin being dog shit throughout Endwalker. But, like, you see where I'm getting at here? It's like, there are a lot of problems with balance in Final Fantasy XIV, but because Pictomancer is the current thing that everybody's talking about, that's the only thing that people are talking about right now, you know? Like, people who are talking about, like, how, you know, Warrior, Gunbreaker, Sage, getting the, like, just put into... just take it out back and shot. It's like, there's a lot of job balance problems in specifically week 1 high-end rating. Everything else basically doesn't matter. Like, if you're rating, like, week 2, week 3, doesn't matter. Literally doesn't matter at all. But doing these, like, week 1 early ultimate things, the job balance is pretty messed up. And Pictomancer has entered this sort of, like, excuse my terminology here, because this is gonna be cringe, but Pictomancer has entered the sort of, like, Cassante zone, okay? And people have already made a Pictomancer copy pasta, which is just a parody of the Cassante copy pasta, okay? But Pictomancer has entered the Cassante zone, where if you are a casual player or a mid-core player, you're going to play Pictomancer, you're going to think, oh, yeah, this is pretty fun. But if you are a competitive player, if you are a high-end player, if you're in the top, like, not even, like, 10 or 15% of Final Fantasy XIV, if you're in the top, like, 25% of Final Fantasy XIV, okay? Like, if you're in, like, the top quarter of the best players, okay? Pictomancer is so overwhelmingly strong in your hands that it's the only choice, right? There's a problem that games have with lower ELOs and higher ELOs that this mostly comes up in for competitive multiplayer PvP games like League of Legends, right? For those of you who don't know, Cassante is a champion in League of Legends who is so ridiculously overtuned and overpowered that he is the, like, he's the poster boy of this idea of there are some characters that can only be viable in pro play, because if they are viable for the rest of the community, like the average player, then they are so insanely overpowered, they have like a 100% pick ban rate in competitive play, and if your team picks them, then you just automatically win the game because they're just that overtuned and that overpowered. Now, it's not that black and white, but it really does, like, if you are in the top echelons of Final Fantasy XIV, Pictomancer is all-encompassing, because the skills that you have and what you can do with a magic caster, Pictomancer can do more, right? So, the Final Fantasy XIV devs kind of have to decide who they're gonna join with here. They're either gonna have to accept that Pictomancer is overtuned, and then either take it out back and shoot it, like Summoner, or they're going to have to nerf its numbers into the ground to where it... Because, again, Pictomancer's fundamental design is overpowered. The fact that it has amazing numbers just makes it the best in the game by far. If you wanted to balance it for high-end rating, and for, like, ultimates and stuff, you would have to, like, make the numbers terrible. So, like, it's doing the amount of damage for, like, the average player that, like, a good red mage or a good summoner would be able to do. And so you have to be a fantastic Pictomancer to be able to get those, like, you know, good numbers and be able to abuse the overpowered design that Pictomancer has. They made a character, well, a role, a job, that breaks the game, and balancing that is going to be impossible. And so they're going to have to decide what they want to do. And I think the best idea would be when you do, like, numbers readjustments in, like, I don't know, when you do number readjustments in, like, next expansion, and you're, like, upping the health values and you're upping the damage numbers and the potencies, give Pictomancer the least amount of increases compared to the other jobs, or make it to where Pictomancer thresholds need more stats to start meeting, like, you know, like, threshold increases for stats or whatever, and then just sort of, like, try to exist like that, you know? It feels bad to say, but if you want to keep Pictomancer, like, playable, then, like, here's the thing, they have a few choices. They can either do nothing, and Pictomancer is objectively the best DPS in the entire game, and everybody in the high-end community hates Pictomancer because they're forced to play it, right? Or you can do something that is, you nerf it into the ground so that only, like, you know, good Pictomancers can play the job to, like, the effectiveness of, like, a good red mage, right? Like, you just equalize it, you nerf its numbers into the ground, and by doing so, you make it actually the worst caster in the game, because Pictomancer has forced downtime, right? I don't know. I got it right by just guessing. You love to see it. So those are the two most obvious choices, right? Do nothing, and Pictomancer is the greatest job in the game forever. nerf it into the ground, so it's the worst job in the game because of the unique mechanics that you gave Pictomancer, to the point where it has downtime as it has to prepare its skills. Or rework the job, and then you kill its community, right? So you probably don't want to do that. But those are the three, like, most obvious things you could do. And I think probably just the best potential idea is, if you want to bring Pictomancer down, is just increase the health values of the bosses, increase the defenses that the bosses have, and just buff all of the other jobs so that they are at Pictomancer's level or higher. And listen, we had a stat squish. Maybe that would accelerate the next stat squish. I don't know. But I think that... I mean, honestly, I think doing nothing and then just having, like, the best players in the game hate Pictomancer... If you're based and not Riot Games, maybe that's what you want to do. Because here's the thing. Final Fantasy XIV is not an esports game that's built around the best players in the world and their opinions on it, right? You don't have to have... Like, I'm League of Legends brained. I'm Summoner's Rift brained. So I'm thinking, like, yeah, Cassante has to be a pro-only character, so his base numbers and base stats have to be into the ground because the potential that his kit gives you is too much, so you have to make him a dogshit character, because the right player playing Cassante can take over the game with Cassante, even with his numbers being dog shit, you know? And so it's like, but you don't have to do that. Like, Final Fantasy XIV is not a pro-player-driven game, right? People who are playing Final Fantasy XIV are not pros, are like, not trying to make it big and become Final Fantasy XIV professionals, you know? They're just trying to play the game for fun. So, I think, probably, the best thing you can probably do is just say, hey, we're not nerfing Pictomancer, and we're gonna try to raise the damage values of other characters so that other jobs are viable in Fru, right? And future Ultimates. I think that's probably the best thing to do. I think that's hopefully what Square Enix does do. But if they, you know, they're gonna get this backlash forever, because pro players are gonna just be mad and mad and mad about Pictomancer forever, so... It is what it is. We'll see. Time will tell. The future has not been written yet, Ultimates. Have a good one. Stay safe out there. Bye.